We build our own realities through the sounds we choose to acknowledge. The laughter of friends, the warning of a parent, the whispered plea of someone in pain. We curate our sonic world, tuning out the frequencies that cause us discomfort. I was a master of this. My name is Daniel, and my family was a fortress of selective hearing. We were successful, busy, and profoundly, willfully deaf to anything that threatened our comfortable narrative. We learned too late that silence is not empty. It is a domain, and it has a curator. This is the legend of the Whisper Collector, and the terrible price of ignoring the cries you are meant to hear. It revolved around my grandmother, Nana Rose. She lived with us in our large, modern, and always noisy house. The TV was constantly blaring. Someone was always on a phone. Headphones were a permanent accessory. Nana Rose was a quiet woman. Her presence was a soft hum in the background of our lives. Her attempts to connect a story about her childhood, a concern about a leaky faucet, a quiet expression of loneliness, were like feathers brushing against a brick wall. We were the wall. "Not now, Nana. I'm on a call," my father would say, not looking up from his laptop. "I'm busy, Grandma," my sister would sigh, scrolling through her phone. "We'll talk later, Mom," my mother would promise, a promise that never materialized. We didn't see the light fading from her eyes. We didn't hear the desperation thickening in her whispers. We were too busy listening to the important sounds of our own lives. The night she died, she had come into the living room, her hands trembling. "I'm so lonely," she had whispered, her voice a dry leaf skittering on pavement. I was trying to watch a game. I shushed her, gently but firmly. "Later, Nana, the game is on." She looked at me, and in that moment, I saw not my grandmother, but a profound, bottomless hurt. She turned and walked away. That was the last time any of us heard her speak. The silence after her death was different. It wasn't peaceful. It was accusatory. It started subtly. The house would suddenly become preternaturally quiet. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, the distant traffic, all of it would vanish, replaced by a vacuum of sound that felt heavy and listening. Then we began to hear the whispers. They were faint at first, like a radio station from another country bleeding through the static. "It's cold in here," a voice would sigh, Nana Rose's voice from the empty rocking chair. "Nobody ever listens," another would weep from the air vent. We told ourselves it was grief, guilt, our minds playing tricks, but the whispers grew clearer, more frequent. They weren't just Nana Rose's voice anymore. They were a tapestry of every ignored plea, every dismissed warning, every unheard confession that had ever echoed within our walls. The collector was tuning his instrument. The first attack was on my father. He was in his study, and the silence descended so completely it was like a physical blow. He later described a figure emerging from the corner where the shadows were deepest, the Whisper Collector. It was tall and gaunt, its form seemingly woven from the static you see on a dead TV channel. It was hunched, as if carrying a great weight, and on its back was an old, beautifully crafted Victrola phonograph with a large brass horn. Where its face should have been was a single, large, pale, and perfectly formed human ear. From the sleeves of its shadowy coat, thin, wiry tentacles emerged, each one ending not in a hand, but in a small, antique listening horn made of tarnished brass. It didn't move toward my father. It simply pointed one of its listening horn tentacles at him. The absolute silence intensified, pressing in on his eardrums until he thought they would bleed. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The collector glided forward, placed the cold brass horn against my father's forehead, and recorded him. It stole his voice, his ability to make sound, pulling it straight from his mind. When it was done, my father was left on the floor, physically unharmed, but utterly, permanently mute. His eyes screamed the terror his voice could no longer express. My sister was next. The collector found her in her room, and it replayed for her through the Victrola on its back. Every cruel, dismissive thing she had ever said to Nana Rose, amplified and distorted into a weapon. She clawed at her own ears, but she couldn't block out the sound. The collector recorded her screams of anguish, adding them to its collection. She was left not mute, but deaf, her hearing burned away by the auditory assault, trapped in her own silent world with the memory of her own cruelty. My mother tried to flee. She made it to the front door before the silence locked around her. The collector replayed Nana Rose's final ignored whisper, "I'm so lonely," on a loop, a needle stuck in the groove of my mother's deepest regret. It recorded the sound of her sobbing until she had no tears left, leaving her catatonic, her mind broken by the one sound she refused to hear in life. I was the last. I hid in Nana Rose's old room, surrounded by the ghost of her scent. The silence found me. The whisper collector stood in the doorway, its single massive ear twitching. I could feel it sifting through the sounds in my head, looking for the one that defined my failure. It found it. The sound of me shushing her. The most damning sound of all. It raised a listening horn tentacle towards me. I knew it was going to take my voice, my sanity, everything. But in that final moment, I didn't try to speak. I didn't beg. I did the one thing we had never done for her. I listened. In my mind, I replayed every fragment of her I could remember. The lullaby she sang me when I was sick. The story about her first dance. The sound of her laughter in the kitchen. I didn't just hear them. I listened to them. I let them fill the silent void the creature was creating. The whisper collector paused. The brass horn hovered inches from my face. Its massive ear tilted, as if perplexed. I was giving it a sound, but not one of pain or fear. I was giving it a memory, a tribute. It was a sound it had not come to collect. It lowered its tentacle. The static of its form seemed to soften for a moment. Then it turned and walked away, melting back into the silence from which it came. I was spared, but my family is shattered. My father, a silent ghost. My sister, deaf to the world. My mother, a vacant shell. The doctors have no explanation. I live with the echoes. The whisper collector doesn't punish murder. It punishes a different kind of sin, the sin of willful deafness. It is the archivist of unheard pleas, and it balances the scales by collecting the sounds of those who refuse to listen. So I beg you, hear my warning. When someone speaks to you, especially someone who is quiet, listen. Truly listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk, because in the silent spaces between our words, something is always recording. And if you fill those spaces with nothing but indifference, you may just attract the attention of the ultimate listener. And his collection is always growing. Share this. Make people listen. It might just save their voice.